Welcome to another episode of David's Elvis Movie Companion, here to help you better enjoy the films of Elvis Presley and the music therein. Now today's movie is one that is a huge fan favorite, both now and at the time it was released in 1965. We're talking about Girl Happy. Confession, this is the first Elvis movie I recall seeing. It was one of those either January or August Elvis film double features on some channel, either his birth month or his death month, I can't remember. And it was a double feature with Girl Happy and Clam Bake. And so that was my first introduction to Elvis movies. And I guess because those two movies are similar in a lot of ways, I just assumed that all Elvis movies were exactly like those. And as you'll see if you continue to watch the episodes of this particular show, then you'll notice that, and you watch the movies, you'll see that they're not all the same, even though there is a certain formula. And Girl Happy definitely follows that formula. Lots of songs, lots of physical humor, some comedy, lots of mayhem and complications, and lots of romance. So this movie does not disappoint in terms of those things that seemed at the time to appeal the most to Elvis fans. Now I've got the soundtrack here, and the soundtrack we'll talk about in a second, but it also did really well at the time, and actually peaked at number 8 on the Billboard album charts. So no denying the popularity of Girl Happy. And the plot is, well, is the plot ever going to be too complex? No. But essentially, at a club in Chicago where Elvis's band is playing, they're all fired up because it's freezing in Chicago, but they've got a week-long gig in Fort Lauderdale during spring break, and they're going to be going down there and having a blast. Well, the guy who hires them there in Chicago, he finds out his daughter, played by the exquisite Shelley Fabares, is also going to be there. And being the protective dad, he decides to tell Elvis to look out after her. So apparently the wolf is guarding the sheep. But basically the complications ensue, and there's all sorts of wackiness that develops. A lot of songs, and a lot of familiar faces. Now Shelley Fabares, who I love her, she's great, and she was great in she was tremendously popular even before she was in Girl Happy, on the Donna Reed show, and she actually charted with songs of her own. Johnny Angel being the one that's probably the most popular. And then went on later in her career on the show Coach. So a really long and terrific career. I think she's great. And she wound up being in 3 different Elvis movies, and he is on record as saying that she is his favorite co-star. And this movie is a great example why. She's terrific in it. Interestingly, they didn't give her like a solo song to sing, which I think would have been really great, because they gave Anne Margaret 2 in Viva Las Vegas. They gave Nancy Sinatra 1 in Speedway. So with her fame as a singer already established, why not give Shelley 1? I don't know why. That's a debate for another time. But it's a really fun movie. Is it the best movie? I would not say so, but it's definitely one that if you're a real Elvis fan, it's not going to disappoint. A couple of other familiar faces in Elvis's band here. You see Gary Crosby, and that is Bing Crosby's son. You also have Jimmy Hawkins, and Jimmy Hawkins was in, you'll see him later on, along with Shelley Fabares, in the movie Spin Out. And he also was on the Donna Reed show with Shelley Fabares. So they had a lot of work together. But you see him again later on. Jackie Coogan has a very small part in this. And Jackie Coogan, for those of you who don't know who he is, he was actually a child star, and actually starred with Charlie Chaplin and became kind of the first high-paid child actors in Hollywood. And because basically all of his money was swindled from him by his parents, when he became an adult, filed a suit. And so now there is a child labor law in Hollywood established that's sometimes referred to as the Coogan Law. So it's got some importance there. As far as any other stars in here, Marianne Mobley is a minor love interest of Elvis's. She would go on later in 1965 to star with him in Harem Scarum. She was also Miss America in 1959. So that's a lot of trivia. When it comes down to it, is this movie a fun movie to watch? Sure. There are a couple of things. Again, because of when it was filmed and sort of the nature of the movie, there are a couple of sort of sexist overtones a little bit there, you know, and the whole idea that somebody needs to go down and watch after, you know, somebody's daughter, you know. It's not a heavy theme or anything like that. Also, the producers were wanting to start a dance craze by writing a song and choreographing a dance called Do the Clam. Needless to say, it did not take off. And during that scene in the movie, you will see why. It's just a little awkward, and quite frankly, any dance that involves a mollusk, I'm not quite sure is the direction you want to go in. But, you know, why not give it a shot? In the end, it didn't impact the popularity of the movie at all. Okay, so the music. I mentioned earlier that the soundtrack peaked at number 8 on the Billboard album charts, and the song Puppet on a String reached the top 20 as really the only single off of it. A lot of people know the theme song, the title song, Girl Happy, and it's a bouncing, fun tune. There are several songs on here, though, that are definitely worth putting on your Elvis movie playlist. Puppet on a String being one, Girl Happy being one. I'm a little partial to Do Not Disturb. I think that's a nice, you know, love song. And Cross My Heart and Hope to Die is a pretty good song also. Now, I'll say this about the songs. They're all really short, and there's a lot of them. And it's like a lot of them were just kind of crammed in there at times. And because Elvis's character is a musician, it's easy to put them in the movie. All they do is just show him and his band playing in a club, and there you go. Except for Do the Clam, which is on a beach, obviously. Those songs are definitely worth putting on your Elvis movie music playlist. I don't know if the entire soundtrack is worth buying. There are a handful of clunkers on here. Here's interesting too. I've mentioned before that like in Blue Hawaii, for example, the on-location scenery is so breathtaking that you almost think that it's being paid for by the Hawaii Tourist Bureau or the Oahu Chamber of Commerce. There's actually a song on here called Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, and yet none of Elvis's scenes were filmed in Florida. There was some on-location footage done in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but in terms of him actually being there, all of his scenes were on a movie set in Hollywood. So a little irony there, which can be very ironic sometimes. So I give this movie a B. It is not of the caliber of, say, a Blue Hawaii or a Viva Las Vegas, but at the same time, if you're an Elvis fan, you're going to love it. I will say this, I think at this point, Elvis being young enough to be the band for spring break, he seems a little out of place at times, and so do the other members of the band. Gary Crosby, for example, looks like he's about 40 in this movie. He's not, but he looks like it, which makes it, I don't know, makes him look just a little bit creepy, you know, that they're hanging out with what would probably be much younger folks. In any event, that doesn't detract from the fun. And if I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you decide to watch the movie, enjoy the film.